You know, business strategy can seem super complicated, right? But what if we thought about it like a game? A game with rules, clear moves, and a playbook that can actually lead you to victory. Today, we're going to show you exactly how to write that playbook.
I mean, it's the kind of question that literally keeps founders staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. You see two companies launch around the same time in the same market. One just takes off like a rocket, and the other, well, it just sputters out. So what's the secret sauce? So often it comes down to strategy.
Okay, to make this all a bit more real, let's follow the journey of a fictional startup. We'll call them Spark. They're jumping into the crazy, crowded electric scooter market, and their goal is simple. They don't just want to survive, they want to win. So, where on earth do they start?
Well, their first move isn't what you'd think. It's not about designing a sleek scooter or coding an app. Nope. It's about sizing up the battlefield. And for that, we're going to turn to our first really powerful tool, understanding the 5 competitive forces that are going to shape their entire future.
Okay, put yourself in the founder's shoes for a second. You've got this killer idea, but before you spend even $1, you gotta ask, what game am I actually about to play? Who are the other players? What are the rules? And really, how hard is it to win here?
To answer all of that, you need a map of the entire competitive landscape. And lucky for us, there's a classic framework for that called Porter's 5 Forces. It's a way to systematically break down any industry and figure out just how tough the fight is going to be. And this isn't some boring academic exercise. For Spark, this is a reality check that could save them from jumping into a game they have no chance of winning. So let's break down these outside threats for Spark. First up, new entrants. Basically, how easy is it for another scooter company to just pop up overnight? If it's super easy, profits are always going to be squeezed. Then you've got substitutes. I mean, think about it. People don't have to ride a Spark scooter. They can grab a bike, hop on a bus, or call rideshare. These aren't direct competitors, but they put a hard ceiling on what Spark can charge. All right, next up, you've got the power players in the arena. First, the bargaining power of suppliers. Spark needs things like batteries and motors. If there are only a couple of companies that make those, guess what? Those suppliers can jack up prices and crush Spark's profit margins. On the flip side, you have the bargaining power of buyers. That's you and me, the riders. If we can easily switch to a cheaper scooter from a different brand, we hold the power to push prices down. And all of these forces, new people jumping in, other options, powerful suppliers, demanding customers, they all kind of squeeze together and feed into the big one at the center, competitive rivalry. This is the down and dirty, head-to-head fight between Spark and every other scooter company out there, all battling for the same piece of pavement. Just how intense is that fight? And this is the cool part. This is where all that analysis turns into an actual, actionable plan. For every single threat, there's a smart countermove. Worried about new entrants? Build a brand people love. Supplier has too much power? Find more suppliers. See? This isn't just theory anymore. This framework just built Spark its very first playbook.
Okay, so Spark gets the big picture now. They know how intense the industry is. But just saying the competition is way too vague, right? Not every other scooter company is a direct threat. So the next step is to get way more specific and map out who they're really up against. I mean, you look at the scooter market, and it just seems like this total chaos, scooters everywhere. But if Spark is building a high-end, long-range scooter for city commuters, are they really competing with that cheap, beat-up rental scooter on a college campus? Probably not. The founder has to ask, who are we really fighting against every single day?
To figure that out, we use a really neat tool called strategic groups. It's all about grouping together companies that are basically playing the same game. They're competing on similar things, like being the cheapest, or having the best quality, or being everywhere.
The classic example here is airlines. It just makes it so clear. You've got budget airlines, like Ryanair and Southwest. They're in the same strategic group, fighting tooth and nail over every last penny on ticket prices. That is intense rivalry. But is Ryanair losing any sleep over a luxury airline like Emirates? Absolutely not. They're playing in totally different sandboxes, so the competition is way less direct.
So, let's bring it back to Spark. We can actually map out their whole industry using a couple of key factors. Let's say price on one axis and how wide their coverage is on the other. By plotting where all the competitors land, Spark can see in an instant who their direct rivals are, and, maybe even more importantly, where the wide-open spaces in the market are, just waiting for someone to claim them.
All right, Spark has a solid map of what's happening right now. But, you know, a great strategy is never just about today. It's about, as they say, skating to where the puck is going to be. And this brings us to our final tool, which is all about understanding how an industry changes over time. You can think of it like an industry's 4 seasons.
Seriously, a winning strategy today could be a total dud tomorrow. So the really big question for our founder is this: what stage is the e-scooter industry in right now? And what does that mean for our strategy not just today, but for the next 5 years?
The framework for this kind of future thinking is called the industry life cycle. It's this idea that pretty much every industry goes through 4 predictable stages: introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. And here's the critical insight. To win, you have to play a completely different game in each stage.
And this whole idea just clicks when you see some real-world examples. That introduction stage, think about electric vehicles in the very early days. Growth, that was the absolute explosion of smartphones in the 2000s. Maturity is the stable, predictable soft drink market we see today. And decline? Well, unfortunately, that's the story of print newspapers.
And here's the kicker. As an industry moves through these seasons, what your company focuses on has to change, like dramatically. At the very beginning, it's pretty much all about R&D and just getting the product right. Then, in the growth phase, you flip the switch to aggressive marketing and just grabbing as much market share as you can. And by the time you hit maturity, it becomes a game of squeezing out every last bit of efficiency to protect your profits.
So let's bring it all home. Where does this leave our startup Spark? Well, the e-scooter industry is pretty clearly in that growth stage, and that tells them exactly what they need to do. This is not the time to be pinching pennies. It's time to hit the gas, hard. They need to be scaling up, plastering their brand everywhere, and expanding as fast as humanly possible to grab all that growing demand.
Okay, let's pull all these threads together. We've just walked Spark through 3 super powerful frameworks. And these are not just abstract ideas from a textbook. They are the absolute essential tools that belong in every founder's toolkit.
When you really boil it down, it's a clear 3-step process. Step 1, use Porter's 5 forces to understand the entire playing field. Step 2, use strategic groups to pinpoint your real rivals and find your spot. And Step 3, use the industry life cycle to plan not just for today, but for where the whole game is headed tomorrow.
At the end of the day, that's what great strategy is all about: timing. As our source material puts it, by adapting their strategies to the life cycle stage, firms can gain a competitive edge. It's about making your move now based on what's coming next, while all your rivals are still stuck playing yesterday's game.
Look, these tools aren't just for some made-up startup like Spark, right? They are a lens you can use to see the entire business world more clearly. So I'm going to leave you with a question to chew on. What brand new industry, a potential future giant, is just entering its introduction stage right now? Thanks for tuning in.